Hi, so we are live. Welcome everyone. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Carolina. I'm the founder and CEO of Mudatuga here in Portugal, and today I have a very special guest, which is Himkar from the Compost Kitchen. If you want to introduce yourself very quickly.
Thanks so much, Carolina, for having me. I'm so glad to be connecting with other composting businesses around the world. I've read a lot of things about Matatuga, so I'm even glad to just exchange notes. And I'm really looking forward to questions from the audience as well.
Yeah, so for everyone watching us live, we can actually see all of your comments here. Hinkar, I don't know if you saw it, but you can see the comments as well. I see that Susanna already said something amazing. So nice to see you here, Susanna. Well, I have a very interesting script for today, and I'm so glad to welcome you all to our first LinkedIn webinar. We have been thinking about creating a webinar in LinkedIn for a while now, so I'm super glad this day finally arrived. Well, I'm just going to tell you guys a short introduction about Mudatuga and our recent milestones, and then I'll open the floor for Himkar to tell us a little bit of his journey and some of his milestones, because his project is super interesting and I have seen many synergies between our journeys. So I'm super excited to kick this off. Well, for those who doesn't know me, my name is Carolina. I'm a biologist and environmental educator. I came to Portugal in 2017 to get a postgrad in environmental and technological risk assessment. So Mudatuga's journey started almost 2 years ago with it just started as a project, and now we are already like a incorporated startup, and we have been doing a lot of educational projects, and we always really give a lot of value to educating people about composting and about bio-waste, landfills, and so on. Well, despite our focus having been education for the past 2 years, we have been developing a product that is coming to the market this summer in Portugal, actually in Europe, right? And we chose to create a product that is carbon positive. And we can discuss about this a little bit later when Himkar gets to talk about his product, because he also has an amazing product, right? Well, some milestones that I wanted to share with you is that Mudatuga has been to the global finals of Climate Launchpad last year, which is a competition supported by the Climate Kick here in Europe. And we were selected as European top 3. And also now we are one of the 16 startups participating in the Climate Accelerator 2022 with Climate Kick. So we just kicked off last month, which is very exciting. We have a lot of amazing mentors there. We have also co-created and implemented a composting summer school in Lisbon last year, which was called Escola Compostar. We delivered over 40 workshops in 5 weeks, and it became like one of the biggest composting related initiatives here in Portugal so far. We had over 1,000 citizens enrolled from all across the country. We have also just finished our acceleration program in social entrepreneurship at the Watson Institute in Boulder, Colorado. So if anyone from Boulder is there, tell us in the chat. And also, we have been nominated by the World Economic Forum's Uplink platform as a top young innovator fighting climate change, and we are being supported now by the Climate Reality Project and Global Shapers community. So as you can see, there is a lot going on, and I love how international our small project has become. And well, as you know, Himkar is the founder and CEO of Decomposed Kitchen, which started in South Africa. And one of their goals is to improve water security by repairing soil with compost. So he's here to share some insights of how entrepreneurship can be a successful model for advancing SDGs. And also, since we are in the International Composting Awareness Week, we are probably going to talk a little bit about awareness, and I'm super excited to learn with him. So, Himkar, can you tell us why did you choose to work with composting in the first place?
In South Africa in 2017, there was a very bad drought. And I had been warned when I was in primary school that this drought would happen and that we would need to save water to prevent it. But it was 20 years later and that still happened. So I felt like we knew about the problem, but we didn't solve it. So I knew this would happen again in the future if we didn't do something about it, but I wasn't sure what to do. So I left the country to study a master's degree in water management in Germany. And I lived in Germany for 5 months and then Vietnam for 5 months. I'm actually currently in Vietnam. I just came last week. And then
Wow.
I lived in Jordan for 5 months. So that allowed me to see the full water cycle from an outside perspective to see what was missing. And what I found was that although obvious in the science of water, but not obvious to us in the problem, is that we need to repair our soil in South Africa because the soil is the most important component of the water cycle. Because when a raindrop hits the earth, it hits the soil first. So everything that happens downstream is determined by what happens at the soil. But 60% of soil in South Africa is lacking organic matter, and the organic matter is what makes the soil act like a sponge. So when the rain comes, it holds onto the water and allows it to infiltrate into the groundwater system. So I realized that we need to put carbon back in the soil. That's organic matter, and I figured out a model of how we do that. And it happened to be the best model that I could find was a business model. And the model is where we collect food waste from households and then we recycle it into a very high quality compost called vermicompost. And then we give the vermicompost back to customers at the end of the month so that they can repair their soils. It has many benefits in being circular, which I'd love to share with you as well.
Wow, this is amazing. And one of the things we were just talking about on the backstage is that both me and Hinkar lived in Jordan for a few months. So I think there as well, there is a lot of need to actually repair the soil, right? So the theme of this year's International Composting Awareness Week is actually how we are going to use compost as the recipe for regeneration. So it's a very exciting subject for us to be discussing today. And Himkar, from all of the places that you have been, how do you see that, for example, different cultures might be influencing the way people look at their waste?
It's very much dependent on different conditions. When I was traveling, I was picking up different aspects of water management that everyone is weak and strong at. So in Germany, I picked up that they're very strong in technology and in project management, and as well as waste management. In my apartment in Germany, there was a separate bin for organic waste, and we didn't have that in South Africa, where you have to throw your organic waste in that bin. And so then I started getting that impression. I didn't yet connect it to water, but I started putting that. It was a piece of the puzzle, I call it. And then in Vietnam, I saw when I was walking to university, a, a lot of the waste in the dumpster was food waste. And they have a problem of excess water. They've got too much water, and that it causes a situation where it's a bit easier to pollute because there's water everywhere, and so when the rain comes, it can wash pollution from anywhere. And most of the pollution was rubbish. It was litter. So I connected water and waste then. And then in Jordan, as you mentioned, it's got a soil problem, but it used to be an ocean, and now it's desert. But that means it has extremely rich soil. It's just missing organic matter, which has evaporated over time. And so, if they can put organic matter back in their soil, they can become an agricultural powerhouse of that region. But because there's certain cultural limitations or cultural beliefs of the way you treat waste, it's a bit difficult to get that going. So I was putting together all these impressions, and then I figured out we need to collect organic matter separately, put it in the soil, and that will improve water security.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the first points we are touching here now is basically that culture is a huge player when we are trying to raise awareness about composting. Because, for example, in some cultures, people will find it more easy to look at their waste as a resource. And then in other cultures, people are going to have like a stigma about their waste, and they end up looking at their waste as trash, right? So
I
this is
think it's
like
also
a
a
huge
function
problem.
of a city's development, because some cities will mandate that you must throw your organic waste here, because if you don't, then we don't take all your waste. We don't take any of your waste. So if you don't separate it properly, they don't do it. Whereas some countries have it as a optional, a private service, and some a government service, but not too well followed. So I think it's a function of many things, which makes it so complicated to get right. There's so many different personalities, and each one requires something slightly different when it comes to waste. And so you need a solution for each. And there's no one solution for that will work for everybody. And so some societies are more similar in their thinking, so they are able to get one system that works for majority. But there's still always you're going to need different solutions in a society.
Yeah, and this is one of the main reasons why I always say that we have to be very careful when you talk about competition in the composting business, because probably like people that want to buy an electronic device are not the same ones that want to have a worm farm. You know, like these are completely different people, and I think there is space for everyone to work. And the one like it's kind of like a common ground for all the solutions is to actually educate people to start separating their waste. Because one of the things we see here in Portugal, at least from my personal experience and professional experience, is that sometimes we have containers for all kinds of trash and people still don't separate. So it's not the lack of opportunity, it's also the lack of awareness. Well, when you started the composting kitchen, because you have been through different stages of the business model, right? So when you started the compost kitchen, you were working with warm composting, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, and then you decided that you wanted to have like more options for your customers. And my question is like, when like what has been the like how did this shift happen? You know, like how did you decide? Okay, so now we are evolving and we are also launching an electronic device, which I saw a few pictures and videos and I love it. And if you can tell us like what is the iCompost, how does it work, and why did you create that?
Yeah. For about 2.5 years, we've been doing a collection model where we collect the food waste from households and we take it to the compost site, make it into compost, and then give it back. Right. But the part where we collect the waste started making not sense, making because we realized that the food waste was 90% water, which means we were actually trucking around water through the city, and that started, we started questioning whether that's a model where the future in 100 years time or 300 years time, does it look more like a system where we're collecting water around, or does it look like something else? And so I was just, imagining where are we going and are we aligned with that kind of development plan? And then I thought that I think the system is going to be more like one where we don't send waste away from our homes. We use technology to turn it into a resource again, which can be used directly. The reason why we have that waste system is because of the way society developed at the beginning. It's just um, we didn't have technology to transform our waste into any kind of resource. But now technologies are coming so fast that one day you're going to be able to transform your plastic bottle into pellets and then have another machine to 3D print another object. So we won't have a model where when I produce the waste, then it's the whole of society's problem to get rid of it. It's my problem if I produce my waste. But it doesn't become a problem anymore because the technology removes any kind of odor, mess, or taking up space. And that way it becomes more convenient to do than actually putting it in our bin and waiting for collection the next week. So we introduced the iCompost, which is the machine, because that's going to allow people to do their food waste composting at home. There's no mess, there's no smell, there's no inconvenience, and does it very quick. And that means we can also reach further because we were only servicing an area where we could collect from, right? But we were getting inquiries from all over the country. So this machine we can at least ship to different people, and I think that model is proving to be quite strong, and we're going to continue with a model like that.
That's amazing. I also agree that sometimes door-to-door collection is very challenging, and also if because I saw your bike, right? But we cannot bike throughout the whole country, so sometimes we really depend on trucks, and they pollute, right? What can we do? And I love the idea of home composting. Mudatuga also believes in decentralized models and also like empowering people to actually transform their waste at home. When it comes to the iCompost, can you just tell us like the result? Is it how many days it take and like what is the result? The final compost? Can people just put it in their gardens? Do you have like a volume reduction? When you talk about water, like do you dehydrate the bio waste first? How does it work?
Yeah, it takes 5 hours. You just put your food waste in, you put an activator inside, and then you press on, and then it takes 5 hours to complete the cycle. It dries the waste. That's correct. It grinds it up. It allows the microorganisms in the activator to do a little bit of work on the waste. And then what comes out is something that looks like compost, but it's pre-compost. It's a very early stage because the objective of the iCompost is to accelerate the first few, let's call it a week of decomposition, because that's the most volatile. That's when the smell comes, that's when the liquid comes out, that's what attracts flies. So you want to fast forward that as quick as possible so that you can start the less messy stuff after that. So you will take that, bury it in the soil, and it will continue decomposing further and then releasing nutrients into the soil. Um, it's not a 30-day, a 3-month matured compost. That's not its objective. Is Our objective is always to feed the soil. So we're putting the organic matter in so the microorganisms in the soil can decay it, but not creating any kind of mess and attracting rats and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great strategy. And the activator you mentioned, is it like a microorganism mix?
It's a mixture of 4 ingredients. We're still applying for patents, so yes,
Ah,
one of the ingredients is
it's a secret.
yeah.
Okay, because one of the things I find it really fun is that Mudatuga's favorite composting method is actually also a pre-composting method, which is bokashi, the fermentation. And our compost bin, Compostuga, is going to be a bokashi method. And we kind of have like the same strategy because we are also accelerating the pre-decomposition stage and trying to get rid of all the liquid. In bokashi, you have a 25% reduction of the liquid part of the compost. And then after 2 weeks, well, it's not 5 hours, but after 2 weeks, you also have a pre-compost that's not smelly. It's just like a pickled bio waste, which I think is also amazing. And, like I think it's a very like complementary method because of course the iCompost needs probably to be connected to power. And this is the first question we have here from our audience. So João is asking, how much energy is it necessary for the iCompost to work?
It uses 0.7 kilowatt hours of electricity for a cycle, and that question is probably related to its carbon footprint because we don't want to be doing worse by composting than doing nothing. So what we did was we compared it to the situation currently where people are throwing their waste in the bin. We calculated what is the carbon footprint of 0.7 kilowatts energy versus if you avoid 1 kilogram of waste going to landfill, goes to compost. That's what can fit in iCompost, and it turns out to be 30% better using electricity than not. But of course, if it's less efficient, then it becomes it becomes more impactful. But that's only also comparing a carbon footprint. Diverting organic waste from landfill has many other benefits. It's not easy to measure. Things like odor reduction, vermin reduction, less contamination of groundwater. So we know that we don't. Nature can do it without electricity, but society hasn't taken it up yet. There's still most of our society in South Africa, at least, don't do composting, even though it can be free. It can be no energy, can be done outdoors. So what people are looking for is something to match with their lifestyle, which is a modern lifestyle. And so that's where this kind of technology fits in. It's not for everyone, of course, because some people don't produce that much waste in a day. So it'll take really long to fill up the iCompost, which makes it not really worth it. Then you go with something like Bokashi, where you can store it for a longer time. So it's only we this product is only intended for a certain market. That's the only thing that's going to get them to compost. Nothing else what we try will get them to compost. And then
Yeah.
some will continue on the collection model because that's fine for them. Maybe they produce too much for the iCompost, or maybe they don't want to, they don't have the time to make the compost, or don't have a garden to use the compost maybe. So I love that you guys are developing Bogashi's system. It's very popular in South Africa actually, because it allows you to be very flexible with what you can put inside.
Yeah, and also what you mentioned is one of the most important things when I give like lectures or when I give workshops is that bokashi, as you said, allows you to store your bio waste for a while. So, for example, I have a few bokashi beans in my place because like I use them for the workshop, and some of them are there for like 2, 3 months, and they are just perfect. Like the way it creates like a pickled bio waste is just amazing. It's like it doesn't create smell with time. So the burning question now is, can I add my bokashi to the iCompost? Because I
Uh,
really want to try it one day.
you can try it, but it would be a waste because Bokashi is quite expensive in South Africa at least. So you would be pre-composting it and then putting the machine, but the machine doesn't need the pre-composting. But you can put bokashi in earthworm composting. Actually,
Yes,
we still
I
do
do
that.
that.
Earthworms love it. So,
Yeah.
we always pre-compost our waste before. If we're not using iCompost, we pre-compost in bokashi, then give it to the worms.
Yeah, we have also been doing that. And for people in Portugal who speak Portuguese, we have released a couple of weeks ago something on social media where I was actually showing all of my worms eating like everything that has been pickled with bokashi, and they were pretty excited even to eat lemons. They were like just eating everything. Well, so here with our talk, one of the things that has been in my mind is when it comes to educating people about the importance of your services and your product, like what is the biggest challenge you have been facing raising this kind of awareness? Because we know, like, like not everyone is willing to invest money in those kind of solutions, even if they're not very expensive, either it's a service or a product. We know that we have to create some kind of awareness in order to sell, right? So, what do you think it's like two top challenges you have been facing this journey?
Well, I had a slightly different approach because when I was in grade two, I learned about recycling. I learned about climate change, at least the beginning of it. And then throughout schooling and university, I've been learning about it. And so have my peers and many other thousands of people around the world, millions of people rather. And so when I came back to South Africa to start the initiative, I realized that there's already a lot of people who want to compost, but there's no solution that meets their exact needs. And so I decided to not focus on education. So there's a group of people who aren't there yet, but there's a group of people who are ready. They want to compost right now, They just need the solution that meets their needs. So if I focus on the group that's not ready, then we're not a business. We're a nonprofit or a government entity. So the role of business is to provide solutions to the public, right? The role of government is to provide education and long-term growth. A lot of non-profit is to provide short-term intervention where none of the business or government can't intervene. So if we were to do education, then we would be a non-profit, and then I would I researched if we were to be a non-profit compost initiative. I couldn't find any project around the world that had scale beyond its local borders. So it was just a small city-wide initiative, but a business model had scaled. So I was intending to fix a South African water system, right? So I wanted a model that could go big. And so I focused on business. And that means that we've only been trying to provide solutions. And that's why we have a suite of solutions. We have home vermicomposting, bokashi collection, iCompost. But of course, the education still needs to be done. And the best way to do that is to connect people to how their actions are uh, contributing to the problem. So many people don't know that if you buy a bunch of bananas at a supermarket, it costs around 1.5 euros. I think that's about, I can't remember. But a third of the weight of the banana is peels. That means you're paying about 75 cents or 50 cents for peels. And if you throw the peels in the bin, it eventually reaches the landfill where it gets covered with tons of junk and then it becomes anaerobic. And anaerobic means that it releases methane, which is a very strong greenhouse gas. So if you think about that, you're paying to increase climate change just by throwing a banana peel in the bin. So what you should be doing is making sure the banana peel doesn't go to landfill, pay for a service that avoids that, or any kind of composting technology. And composting has been around for hundreds of years. So any problem that people are concerned about have been solved already by some kind of system. There's different system for every single kind of need. So it's only a need, all you need to do now is contact people like us. We know all the different techniques and what will work exactly for you.
Yeah, that's very insightful, actually. So, one of the challenges we have also been facing and that has been motivating us to create our product also was that having a educational based business model is very hard. So we are also a business and we provide those kind of services. But you're right, that's not not an easy model, and also it's very difficult to monetize services, especially in a time and place where environmental education is um, not very how can I say this? It's not like people don't really value this kind of services, and also it's also connected to nonprofits, right? So a lot of people see Mudatuga as a nonprofit, but we actually are not. So this is one of the motivations we also have for creating our product. So I'm glad we agree on that. So we have a question here from the audience. So Henriette is asking, what is your solution for informal settlements and rural areas?
Yeah, actually, I know Henrietta. She's from South Africa. That's why that question, informal settlements, relates to is like temporary structures that don't have infrastructure in that settlement. And to be honest, I'm not really looking at any solution for composting for them because they have much more dire needs. Just access to food, access to sanitation. So I would prefer if people rather spend, get that right, and then bring them into the higher value things. But in a model we are exploring, but finding very difficult to get right, is a model where people in informal settlements can make compost from their waste, and then we would buy it from them and sell it to our customers. And that way, they become suppliers to us, and they're earning income and getting rid of their waste. So that can help solve the sanitation issue, can help solve the food issue because if they're earning income. Um, but it's very difficult to get right because we only specialize in a very niche part of society in terms of composting. So we need partners to who know that ground a bit better, know how
Yeah.
to speak the language, how to introduce new projects like this there, how to deal informally with money, and so we're not we don't expect every business to solve the problem for everybody, just to solve one part of the problem, and then different businesses to solve another part. Then together is what eventually solves the whole problem.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, like honestly. And here in the chat, we also have Rob from Watson in Boulder. Hi, Rob. Good morning. He's saying that your example of the banana peel was amazing, and I agree with him. So another point that I wanted to touch here, and let's start going more towards the idea that you told me once. So when I first talked to you, you told me that you think we were lacking solutions. So one of the things that comes to my mind is like maybe in different societies we lack different solutions, or in different societies we're lacking more education. So do you think there's like a diversity of needs, or do you think everywhere it's just a matter of finding the right solution? And well, I'll just stop here, and then I have more questions about this topic, because since we are in the composting awareness week, I would love to know like your views on what is lacking.
I think what's lacking is solutions. I think there are only about 5 options available if you in South Africa if you want to compost your food waste, and I think that the awareness of it is much larger than the amount of options available. And so, because we find that when customers sign up for our service, it's because they're hearing about it for the first time. They see our ad, they sign up. So it means they've been looking for this already. And as soon as the solution comes to them, they sign up. So we're trying to attract more people. We're trying to give solutions to people like that. And I think that's how you lead society too. You don't try to change the whole of society. You try to get a group, critical mass that's doing this composting movement and showing it as so trendy and exciting. And that way, other people start to follow it. Education is a long-term game. Of course, it's important. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't get educated on water and soil and compost. But it's not the job of a business. So I'm your only. I can only advise on business. I don't know the other entities. If a business tries to educate society to become their customers, they'll die out because a business's life cycle is only 10, maybe 10 years, whereas government is over decades. So a business, if they're saying that they can't find customers who know about composting who will pay for their service, they're looking for the wrong customers. They need to find those people who are the people who will sign up for their service or buy their product. Or even, if you're doing any kind of other model, you need to find who is your target. My
Yeah.
customers won't sign up for a non-profit uh, entity where they have to bring the waste to a point because it doesn't meet their needs. So I'm always trying to advocate for entrepreneurs to create more solutions if they want to see improvement to these problems. Just education alone is not going to solve it. We need to get people doing something now. It's about time. As you know, it's just we're out of time, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. And I also agree, it's always a matter of like mix and match. We have to combine different solutions for different areas. And for example, like what is going to work in a like huge urban area with lots of people is not going to work for a rural area. So I completely agree with you. So my other question now, moving forward, is how do you think technology is going to help us raise awareness about composting? So not only I think technology is our friend, when creating products as I compost. But maybe do you think like technology is also going to help us to like create more ways to reach people, more ways to, I don't know, like even different compostings or different solutions? Like, how do you see this looking forward into the future?
I think technology is going to be very important because we're trying to, our time is becoming much rarer. We have very little spare time these days. It's becoming less and less as time progresses, as we develop. And that means we're always looking for technologies to reduce the repetitive tasks in our lives. And that's example why you buy a toaster. The toaster doesn't do any kind of environmental benefit, but it saves you time on making toast. Makes it very easy for you. Even your hair dryer, it doesn't do anything for the environment, but you use it because it's quicker to dry your hair. It means you get sick less, or it sets a certain way. And so technology is always going to have a role if it can improve in a task that somebody is doing already, or wants to do but is not able to at the convenience they want. But I wouldn't say it's going to be compost only. I think we've got problems in every stream of waste. Glassware, I think there will be technology involved that can transform it back to a resource. Plastic, paper, rubber. I don't think we're going to be doing more of a collection kind of system. Just, I'm talking like the future when we have
Sure.
flying cars. I'm trying to envision what does that look like and start building towards that now.
Yeah, exactly. Like 10 years from now, what do you think is going to be happening in the composting market?
Well, in South Africa, we're having legislation that's saying you're not allowed to throw organic waste in the landfill anymore. It's a ban, and it's coming in the next 5 to 10 years. It's already halfway through in Western Cape, sorry, in Cape Town. And so law is going to make it mandatory for that to not go in the landfill. But currently, there's not enough solutions if the law suddenly came today. No one's going to, people don't know what to do with the food waste if the law came today. So that tells you that there's a lack of solutions, and I think we're going to see a lot of more solutions coming. And that's very exciting because there's going to be things I can't think of yet that are going to come and change the way we do food waste composting.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe we are going to be involved in the creation of this new exciting solution. So I agree with what you said in terms of like we don't know what's going to come in the near future, and we have like so much options in terms of how to treat our bio waste. And also, I think it's very interesting your comment on, for example, like, are we going to collect? Are we going to keep collecting? Like, are we going to invest more in community composting? Which here in Portugal, at least, it has been growing a lot. So we see a lot of cities trying to create community composting systems. And but like better than anyone, like it takes a long time and it can be a very frustrating process for the citizens, right?
Yeah, it absolutely can. But I think it's, our generation, this is part of us. It's not something we're doing something on the side. It's if I'm now in an apartment in Vietnam and there's no garden where I can do composting, and it hurts me. I cannot stand to throw it in the bin, but I have to because there's no solution. So that tells you I'm someone so dedicated on composting, but there's nothing I can do because there's no solution yet. And so that makes me excited. I think there's going to be a lot of innovation coming. I think there's not going to be a perfect solution. So maybe people think that we're using electricity for composting. That's not good, but it's not. It doesn't mean it's always going to use electricity. Maybe it's going to use solar heat. Maybe it's going to be solar paneled. And so the important thing is that we keep developing, we keep innovating, and creating a solution that meets our needs at the time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I also think it makes our jobs more exciting, right? To know that there is so much unknown ahead. So Joan is asking here in the chat, if iCompost is recyclable at the end of life?
We have a interesting end of life policy that we're going to implement. It's still a bit early to implement it because none will break in the next 2 years. But we will be taking back any broken appliances, taking out the spare parts, taking out working parts and using them as spare parts in future versions, because we probably won't keep the same version over many years, right? We'll keep upgrading, but keep the fundamental systems the same inside. That means we're going to reduce the waste that would be produced by the machine, but also refurbish some of them to be sold as used ones at a lower price. But yeah, everything in the machine is either metal, plastic that's recyclable. And so yeah, we're thinking, we're looking at it. We know we don't want to be producing waste. Those are the most common questions: is we don't want to create more e-waste, we don't want to use, we don't want to create more emissions. But a company like us is like, we started it because of the good things about it. We're not just a business alone; we're an impact business. So we do every single thing by thinking about the impact first. And if it doesn't meet our needs or so our values, then we don't continue with it. And there's also better ways of doing composting, or sorry, better ways of handling food waste. For example, black soldier fly is much faster at doing food waste. Um, but we care about soil. So earthworm compost is the best quality compost you can get, and that's good for soil. So that's why we went with those earthworms. So it always depends on what values you've started the company with. And we just started in a really pure way. So we're thinking about all these things as we go.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And I also agree that as a responsible business, we should be thinking about the impact of our products, and trying to mitigate as much as we can. So congratulations on that. I'm really excited to hear it. And also you touched a point that I really love, that is all about the essence of the business. So one of the things we realized in Mudatuga is that, like each business has a different mission, values, essence, and a corporate direction. So, and that helps us to focus on collaboration instead of competition. And I think it's like amazing that you can really, you have so much clarity, right? In like, my business is doing this, and maybe other business are providing different services or different products. And I couldn't agree more with that as well. When it comes to a regenerative society, right, we have to not only regenerate the soil, but also the way we do business, the way business owners relate with their employees, and they relate with their customers and other businesses, right?
Yeah, and not every business has to do composting or do something positive. Some need to develop this LinkedIn platform that we can communicate on. Some need to develop payment systems, but it depends on if you find what's really important to you. That's what we need, is for people to be doing something they're really passionate about, and that way they do it with a certain energy, and that brings about positive change automatically. So, when you start a compost business like Matatuga, you don't do it with foul intentions. You do it because you really care about that food waste not going to landfill. I've never met anyone in the compost industry who doesn't share that same passion. So, as long as we're encouraging people to find their passions, and I like to go a step further and encouraging them to do entrepreneurship, because we've had most of the damage has been created by businesses. Um, and I think most of it will be reversed by businesses too, but not the same ones who created it. I think by
Yeah,
new businesses who are, I call them impact businesses. So by just doing business, we are improving society. We're not doing business and then doing something on the side to make up for the negative that we've done. So that means every second we develop this business, the better off society will be, and society just naturally rewards what's better for it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I see here in the chat a lot of people commenting and actually complimenting your work and saying they admire you a lot. So this is great news, right? Everyone loves recognition, at least a little. And then there is a last question from Rob. He's asking you if natural earthworm composting generates any emissions.
Composting generates carbon dioxide, which is it's carbon neutral in the carbon cycle. If you were to send it to the landfill, it produces methane, which is multiple times more strong than carbon dioxide. So if you were to compost it, you're just releasing the carbon that it took out from the air, the carbon neutral. But of course, there's many other benefits that come from composting that I mentioned. Um, but no, there's no emissions that you need to be concerned about as long as you're doing the process properly.
Yeah. So, Himkar, thank you so much. I just want you to, in this last few minutes, share. I know you're selling the second batch of your iCompost. Do you want to share, like, how can people get it? Where do you ship to?
Yeah, we've currently launched it in South Africa. We've launched batch one that was sold out, and you know, we it was a first pre-order campaign in South Africa that did the amount of revenue that we did, and or you can call it a crowdfund campaign. And so that tells you that people are really excited about this kind of technology. And we weren't going to do a batch two until later in the year because we wanted to do some improvements first and some develop different sizes and different branding. But actually, people were already asking us as soon as it sold out, "Can I get one?" You know,
Yeah.
and so we opened a batch two. People can order it on our website, and it's being delivered in September. So there is a wait, but you get a big price discount for that wait. And people are going to love it. They're really going to be talking about it, and we're going to find it very exciting.
That's amazing. I'm also excited to eventually visit you in South Africa and actually see the iCompost with my own hands and eyes. Because I think it's such an exciting solution. And as a compost lover, I mean, everyone here kind of who knows me, kind of knows that I have like all the solutions inside of my apartment, and I try to do as much as I can. And like my apartment is like a compost hub, and I try to transform people's apartments in composting hubs as well. And maybe one day I will take our own compost bin for you too, so we can exchange equipment.
Yes,
Uh,
excellent. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much, Himkar, for your time. I know you're a busy businessman. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I had a lot of fun, and I hope everyone here could learn a little bit of composting awareness. I hope you participate in other activities we are promoting this week. For everyone that speaks Portuguese, we have a live on Instagram on the 5th of May, and also we have a webinar with Eco Schools on Friday, and on Saturday we are going to have like this huge um, active activism, let's say, like a huge event in Lisbon where we are going to the streets to talk with people about composting and close this International Composting Awareness Week on a high note. So thank you so much, Himkar, and thank you all here at LinkedIn for watching. I'll see you guys in the next webinar.
Thanks so much. All the best.
Thank you, Himkar.